Thank you, Nick. That clock's off. And an hour and a couple minutes.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brighton Area Schools Board of Education meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Ms. Ackermeyer, roll call, please.
Mr. Conley?
Here.
Ms. Reed? Here. Mr. Trombley?
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell? Here. Dr. Krebs? Here. Mr. Stahl?
Here.
Mr. Myers?
Here. That moves us to the next item, approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Trombley, supported by Mr. Stahl. Any discussion?
I'd like to propose a couple of amendments to the agenda for tonight. I'd like to add 2 items to for action and 1 to the closed session. So for action, item F, laptop purchase. And then it looks like we would take a break after that. There's a suggestion we take a break after that to go into closed session to review an attorney-client privileged communication. And then after that, item G, the FOIA fee approval to for action. For the closed session, I would propose removing item B, approval of the February 28th closed minutes, and add the review of an attorney-client privileged communication as an item C per the request of the administration.
Okay, we have a motion to amend by Ms. Reed. Any support for it? Support by Ms. Mitchell. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the superintendent report. Before we do that, I just want to make a brief announcement. Call to the public is coming up in a little bit. If you're unfamiliar with our process, there are cards at the back of the room on the table. Please fill out a card, put it in the box there to the left of Mr. Engelter, and then I will call your name based on the cards when we get to that point of the call to the public. So with that said, Dr. Alwa.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and happy March to everybody. I have 2 things here really quickly. We have one of our parents, Mrs. Cullers, at our last meeting, highlighted some of our staff members for a shining star. So I'm going to quickly read what she shared last month here. Horning Elementary and Malpe Intermediate staff, bus drivers, and the crossing guard have been nominated to receive the Shining Star recognition for the school emergency preparedness and crisis response. So thank you so much to all of those people for their preparation and efforts to keep our students safe. So thank you, Mrs. Cullers, for nominating those people. And next up, I'd like to bring our high school principal forward, Mr. Johnson, to talk about some of the exciting things going on at the high school.
Thanks, Dr. Outlaw. Actually, I'm going to let some students talk about it, but I just want to say one quick thank you. A student just asked me, is this their full-time job up there? And I said, it is, it's just not paid. So I'll say the last 2 years of our work has been really hard on all of us and all of you. So I thank you personally for that. So I brought some student leaders with me today because we are fired up and energized back in the schools. We are back full force with all of our events. We're good to go. So I've got 2 seniors and a junior here today. My first senior is Brennan Shaladen, class president. So he's going to come up and talk about the end of the year senior events to you guys, fill you in. He gave you a copy of everything. He wants to make sure you're all invited to these cool events at any time. So Brennan, come on up, buddy, and have at it.
So we have 21 upcoming events. The first one coming up is spring break. This will be March 28th to April 4th. We then have our third quarter exams April 7th and 8th. April 13th is SAT, PSAT testing. We will not have school for seniors. Then we get into graduation speech tryouts as well as graduation song tryouts. Next, we have our scholarship banquet, which will be invite only. Moving on, May 13th, we have a school meeting assembly. This is kind of just an informative assembly to let everyone know, let the seniors know what's going on. That same day, we start our Senior Survivor Assembly. So the next week, we'll be kicking off Senior Survivor. May 14th, we have prom at Crystal Garden. We did not have prom at Crystal Garden last year, so that's something we're really excited about to get back. May 16th, Senior Responsibility Cards handed out. Then May 16th through the 20th, we start our Senior Survivor Week. Senior Sunrise, an event we didn't really have last year, May 23rd. Our last normal day for seniors will be May 24th. May 25th through the 27th, we'll have senior exams. The last day for seniors is May 27th. June 3rd, cap and gown distribution. So this is preparation for graduation. June 8th, summa cum laude breakfast. This will have the record for the most attendance this year. We have the most over 4.0 this year, about 81, I believe. So that's really cool. We're really proud with that. Thank you. And then June 8th, we will have our graduation practice. June 11th will be graduation. And that same evening, we will have our senior all-night party. And June 12th, if needs to happen, we'll have our rain date for graduation. And that's it. So looking at this list, we have some things we didn't really have last year and some more extended versions of last year. So we're really excited to have these things back. And we're ready to go. Thank you, guys.
Hold on one sec. So he's also our salutatorian for the class of 2022. So he's twice as smart as I am, number one. But again, he mentioned our academic wall. So we have our academic wall of fame in the main senior hallway. We usually have about 50 to 60 kids. So I'm really proud of this class because they persevered through all the things we've been through, and they still took a lot of AP courses. And we have 81 kids as of today are going to graduate with over a 4.0. So that number is huge. It's a class 22. Gentlemen, come on up, introduce yourselves when you get here. They're going to talk about something else.
Hello, my name is Josh Cortez, and I'm here to share with you guys how we received this United Way Livingston County Youth Organization of the Year award. And like I said, it was an event held by United Way, and we got an invitation from that, which was super special. And then they served us breakfast as well. And it was just very nice to have good commentary with some really accomplished people. And it was a super special thing to be there. Here you go. And it was a really great experience, and it was just a joy to be there.
So tell them what group won the award and what we won it for.
Yeah. So we won it for the Livingston County Youth Organization of the Year, and it was the leadership class. And it's a very long, it has a very good history of awarding really special youth organizations. And we were lucky enough to be nominated and be awarded the award that's being passed around right now. Thank you.
All right. My name is Ashton Krill. I'm a senior at the high school. I'm also in the leadership class. So the reason why we got this award was for the Pink Week that we do in the fall every year for the past 10 years. And the Pink Week is not about the leadership class. It's more about the community. All of you guys and like your students, like your kids that go through Brighton, you guys all contribute to this great cause, which helps raise money that goes to St. Joe's Hospital to help with cancer research. So it's really great. It's a great event that we're really happy to have a long-lasting legacy of the past 10 years of holding this event. And it's a big thank you to all you members of the community for really helping us out and raising all this money for a great cause.
And one last fact is the leadership class over the past 10 years has raised over $250,000 for St. Joe's. And it's come from the community, the parents and the kids. We have a lot of fun doing it, but it also gives a lot of money to our community. So it stays local, stays for our families. So 10 years of that. And Mr. Grabowski is our new leadership teacher. For some reason, he wants to be a principal one day as well. But he helps lead the class just like Mrs. Park did for the past 10 years. So those two people need a lot of recognition as well. So thank you guys very much for having us tonight.
Gavin?
Yeah, sure. It's back to the way it always has been, Ken. Yep. I know. We're really excited. I mean, we're back to normal and ready to rock this spring. Okay.
Gavin, so with the rain date, that means it'll be on the field again this year.
Correct, sir. Yeah, both of them are on the field again. So back at Brighton High School, kids want to be there.
Good. Glad to hear it.
They're excited about it. We are too. Good job. Yep. Thank you very much for having us tonight. Two of them finished practice and one has to go to practice. So they're going to walk out, not out of disrespect.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Well, and on behalf of the board, thank you, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Grabowski, and everything you guys do in the leadership class. That's an amazing part of what makes Brighton High School so special. And obviously, we celebrate this year that award, but that award could have been given any year over the past decade or plus. And so we really appreciate all that you do for the community and on behalf of the students and the leadership class. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. So that brings us now to the call to the public. I have the cards of anyone that has submitted a card that would wish to address the board. If anyone else would like to, please add it to the box there. You have 3 minutes when your name is called to address the board. Dr. Krebs will be keeping the time. When you are at a 30-second point left in your time, she will raise a yellow card to give you that warning. And then when your 3 minutes of allotted time is up, she will raise the red card. I will also, in addition to naming the person to come to the podium to speak, I will identify the person who will be on deck to give you advance notice. So without further ado, the first person is Jennifer Smith.
I wanted to say to Mr. Trombley and Mr. Conley that we, the parents, thank you for your many years of service to the children of Brighton and for being examples, stellar examples of leadership in our schools and service to our kids. So thank you for all of your hard work. Additionally, I'd like to quote something from the Michigan area or Michigan Authority of School Boards. The primary function of the Board of Education is to oversee education of people in the community. And I just want to say that I was not at the last board meeting, although I did watch it. And I am very dismayed as a parent that your last several meetings have been so off grid that is extremely disrespectful to the kids, is extremely disrespectful to the parents. And I would just plead with you to stop the bickering and get back to what you were what you were elected to do. I changed my speech a little bit because I feel like it might even have been a little harsh. So I'm just going to pick up at the end here. And that is, for the past 5 meetings, you've done nothing more than bicker and make the school board a political theater to advance your own agendas. We as parents would like you to flip the script here and do something a little different. We ask that you unhinge your political agenda from the kids and get back to what you were elected to do. Educate them in a fair and balanced way. And I will say the one thing that really bothered me from the last meeting was the issue with the STEAM Center. So my point includes using funds that we elected you to figure out where they go and what to do with them. Do that in such a way that improves our district and enhances learning. And the comment was made, well, it's like a hands-on museum. That's what a school is like. So if you're all maybe uncertain of that or you don't understand, I think you should all individually go visit one if you haven't been in there lately. Thanks.
And the next person is Kelly. There's no last name. And then Jared Alamat will be next.
Hello, I am speaking today about motion.
You say your last name wasn't on the card.
Yes, I know. I don't have to provide you my last name. My name is Kelly. I'm from Brighton Township.
Our board policy, you have to provide your last name. You can write it on the card. That's fine if you don't want to.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, board and community. I'm here tonight to talk about policy G that's going to be voted on tonight. I'd like to take a moment to address the situation that has caused me pause and generated many questions. As you know, our schools have engaged in training over the last year provided by Horatio Sanchez using his theory of neuroscience and neurolinguistics in education for a positive outcome through our board's partnership with Neola. These teachings fall under the anagrams of CRT, DEI, SEL, etc. I'm going to read a small segment from an article that was supported and approved by Neola website that was solicited to our middle schoolers at Scranton Middle School. under the LESA placement of Miss Dizelle, who was a student, I think a counselor at the school or a psychologist, I'm unsure. Quote, "I'm being attacked by aliens. I totally did not say this on LSD or with friends or on an improv show. I don't do improv and I've only done acid. Never. Okay, well, maybe like once. I said, no, sorry. Screamed this during orgasm. A really good one. I looked at a tall white ceiling where my bedroom is laden in pink pastel cotton sheets from Target. I stared at his gorgeous, dreaded face. He was just so fine. A tall, smooth, black 6-foot man with thick, long dreads that complemented his slim face and slim body. He wore artsy t-shirts with paisley designs. Yeah, that's my kind of thing. And he could F. I really do mean it. We were like two pieces of a puzzle joined together, our bodies perfectly matched for one another. I came with just penetration. Some women can do that. I'm lucky in that sense. He complimented every angle on my body in the ways you know exactly how I mean. That is an excerpt from U Revolution, which was given to our middle schoolers of Scranton Middle School. The website is called urevolution.com if you want to read more of the articles that were accessible to our young children from that website under the LESA and the Neola policies that were given to our schools. Why is this? I'm sorry. As a survivor of assault and brain manipulation, which is also the same kind of brain manipulation and linguistics programming that was used by the Nexium cult that human trafficked people and was just indicted. This is the same linear type of teaching, neuro-linguistic science. That's what's being adopted here. Why is this allowed in our schools? Are we as a community okay with our children being manipulated in this way? I'm not. Why has our board adopted outside curriculum and social emotional content like this? After 2 years of statistically documented damage done to our students by unilateral procedure adoption, haven't you done enough adopting of policies that causes further mental and emotional harms to our students? This type of manipulation of brain play is manipulation, period. End of discussion. Our children are there to learn math, science, history, and reading. Thank you.
Thank you. After Mr. Alabat will be Nicole Colors.
Okay, Jared Alamat. I live in Genoa Township. There's a number of topics I'd like to discuss today, but I'm going to focus on one in particular, and that's any policy, because I know you guys are looking at policies that limits parent participation or public comment in any fashion. So I'm aware there were some meetings last year. I think there were special meetings that were called that weren't published. And I'm also aware that you're looking at dispensing of the standard Board of Education committees and moving to a committee as a whole. I'm not sure why you would want to do that or limit parent participation in any way, but I can give you some really good reasons why you would not want to do that. Okay. Certainly subcommittees allow for the special exercise of certain board members to be leveraged, special expertise of certain board members to be leveraged in a manner that's fit for purpose. So if you're an attorney, you can look at policy matters. If you're a finance person, you can look at finance matters, construction matters, et cetera. Obviously, that's more productive than driving everything through one funnel. That's business 101. More importantly, you would be significantly reducing transparency, as I mentioned. As a parent, I can't go along with that. And as you're duly elected to represent the community, especially the parents, I firmly would say that, I think I represent, and many here represent, the voice overall, the majority for the district. And if you just look at all the issues that we've raised, or in some cases brought to your attention that you weren't even aware of over the past couple of years, the district would be significantly worse off without the advocacy of parents, period. Masks in school. Notice how restrictions are now miraculously lifted without any change in the so-called science. And we have board members maskless today, which I'm pleased to see that. That's great. I think that's really, really good. But a few weeks ago, they were calling for the masking of preschoolers, despite the overwhelming evidence of associated social, emotional, and developmental damage. I take that personally with 2 kids in the district. The charade is over, the virtue signaling is over, and you should have listened to us earlier. Pornography being advertised by the LESA counselor in our middle school. There was actually some things that I found more graphic and wrong in that website. How does that even happen? I hope nobody on this board advocates for that. I'm pretty sure you don't, but you better check yourself if you do. Horatio Sanchez brainwashing our teachers on critical race theory and other divisive racist thinking. Again, you weren't even aware that that occurred, and the list goes on. So I'm not here expecting anybody to be perfect. Nobody is, and I'm the farthest thing from perfect in this room, I'm sure. But we are asking that you be humble, transparent, listen, okay? And partner with us in the administration of the district, of which we are your customers. We are entitled that by virtue of our God-given roles as parents, and based on the past 2 years and the examples noted, we've earned it.
Your time is up. Thank you. After Nicole Colors will be Anna Penela.
Good evening. Today was an exciting day for me. I got to read to my kindergartners class. It was fantastic seeing 22 smiling 5- and 6-year-olds eagerly listening, laughing as I read a story about a basset hound who just would not go. Also, I have an invite for the Horning Science Fair. Am I allowed to hand this? I would like to invite all of you. It's May 9th. The kids are just now getting started, but they will be working very hard on these projects. I was at the workshop meeting on the 28th, and something kind of struck me, and it was regarding hands-on learning and how the STEAM Center would be a hands-on museum. I was very disheartened. Ask any teacher and they will tell you about the importance, the purpose, and the necessity of hands-on learning. Horatio Sanchez even teaches about the important role of motivation in classroom culture. Learning is not based solely on what one test says, but lifelong learning and impactful learning is about the process. My high schooler, he has 6 classes and I think he uses a textbook in only one of them. The teachers have some really awesome technology that they use to teach. Textbooks, the way we learned, doesn't really exist at Brighton High School, and that is great. 4th graders, kindergartners, they both use technology all day long. Very simple, but very, very effective. That comes back to the kinetic floor. It's not just about the floor, it's about sparking that interest for these kids. You never know what a kinetic floor may lead to a kinetic smartphone. One of these kids might invent something based on what they learned on that floor or what spark came from that floor. So I just don't feel like we should just start cutting things because they don't look good on paper. Lastly, I have a challenge for all of you. I would like to see you go and spend some time in each of the school buildings. Go with the teachers, spend a day with the teachers. Even bigger challenge, become a substitute teacher. See what it's like for the kids and the teachers every day. You're making decisions that affect everyone in this district, and nothing will be more knowledgeable for you unless you do this. It's a challenge. Good luck.
After Ms. Penela will be Nick Shelton.
Hello. I guess I just wanted to come up here and say a couple things. First of all, thank you so much to those who fought so hard for the normalcy as soon as possible for our kids. As a parent of one of the boys from the high school championship game on Saturday, I was super proud to be from Brighton. that was pretty amazing to see the community represented. And it was even more amazing to get that opportunity for those kids who have been missing out on normal for the last 2 years. So to have at least, I swear there was probably at least 500 kids, and if not like over 1,000 people from the community there supporting our school, right up against CC. Unfortunately, we lost, but you know, CC has a really tight-knit community, and I think that's one thing that Brighton has also. So I think that it's important to keep in mind that trying to keep these things as normal as possible for these kids is our best option. Hopefully we never return to the masking and any of that nonsense ever again. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring up, and I know a few of you were actually there, it was a really proud moment too when our kids get up there and they play the national anthem and our whole student section stands and they sing it. So it was just commendable. I was really proud to be from Brighton that day, and I hope we can continue to be proud of our community like we have been. And one thing that I would like to do or see, I know we've seen it in Oakland County, is test scores. I know that it's probably not going to be our shiningest moment, but I think that to continue to move forward and continue to be a sought after district, we need to find out what we need to do to make sure our kids are continually improving, even if they did fall behind. But we need to identify those kids who did fall behind and make sure that we're getting them the help they need so that Brighton is always on top. Go Dogs.
And after Mr. Shelton will be Eva Elman.
I'm Nick Shelton. I live in Genoa Township. I have some concerns. I was not at the workshop meeting, and I did hear about the discussion of the committee as a whole. So I have some concerns about that format. I'm hoping that you can explain to the public at a regularly scheduled board meeting the necessity of such a change. Any change the board makes to policy and procedure should have a direct impact on the students and parents of this district. I spent my Saturday morning researching the concept of committee as a whole, and I cannot find a benefit to moving our subcommittees in that direction. The main thing that I could find is how the House of Representatives uses committee of a whole to expedite legislature, half the required members for a quorum, and half the number of members to trigger a recorded vote. The use of it for a school board committee seems very strange to me. Designated committees allow for two things. They allow for board members with strengths in certain areas of targeted concern to bring those talents to the individual meetings. For example, President Myers, Treasurer Mitchell, and Trustee Reed are all lawyers. Their input and expertise in law would meld well with a committee developed for policy review. Trustees Trombley and Conley come from the private sector in construction and automotive. Their input on bond design and bond committees is an asset to those committees. Dr. Krebs' experience as a professor and in education lends itself well to a curriculum-based committee. By moving to a committee of a whole, it seems as if you are involving the entire board in a process that does not take the entire board. You are taking away from the ability of members to work in small groups on things within their comfort zone and for which they are passionate. Maybe that's why they ran for the board in the first place. Second, properly conducted committee meetings, those with a quorum, allow for public comment. I'm not sure whether a committee of the whole does or does not allow for public comment, but as Mr. Alterman said, anything that degrades the ability for you to communicate with the public, I think is detrimental to the relationship between the Board of Education and the public. Early input on these committee meetings, and again, being from HVS, we were able to go to these committee meetings and it was more compact. You could get some comment from people from the community that might have, I have a construction background. I would love to go to a subcommittee talking about the bond and construction work that the district is going through. And that ability for you to get public comment on a smaller setting, I think again, strengthens the bond between the community and the Board of Education. Along the lines of transparency, I had discussions with Dr. Outlaw about the policy or lack of a policy pertaining to the recording of Board of Education meetings. Thanks, Dr. Outlaw, for getting back to me on that promptly. While it seems that regular board meetings are recorded, some special meetings are not, and neither are the workshops. COVID changed the way that we do business, including you as a board. Technical difficulties notwithstanding, it does seem the district's ability to provide the public with a recording of all meetings is beneficial to everybody. So I would consider you, please, if you guys could talk about in the future, potentially putting a process in place to record all public meetings, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
No other cards after Ms. Hellman.
It's really weird because I got teary right before I came up here, and it's because I was thinking about, I have not been to a board meeting for a couple months, and this is one of the reasons. This beautiful young lady died after being forced to take a vaccine to keep her job. And I'm so happy to see the masks off here tonight. And I'm so happy that our children are going to be allowed to be critical thinkers and think for themselves and do their own research, as well as the families and friends of Livingston County here. I was reading and researching, and of course, mainstream media doesn't give us only propaganda. But tonight I read an article, and excuse me, Pfizer funds the Facebook fact checkers. So that's all you need to know as far as propaganda. And that's not even necessarily what I was going to talk about, but I have been through a lot in the last couple months, and this young woman works or is a niece of one of my employees. And that's what our government has done to us. And I know of many, many people that have suffered other illnesses and death because of the vaccine. But I actually came here tonight to talk about the changing from the special meetings from 2 to 3. And I also heard that there was a hold on some money. I watched briefly the board meetings I missed, but because of my not thinking straight, I just want to hear it from you guys. That are we holding up building of the STEAM Center and development of things there because of people not getting along, people not helping each other, and letting personalities and personal issues get in the way of working as a team? I've raised 8 children, 7 of them who work for me, and the other one doesn't work for me, but he has an office in my building. Working together is hard, and we all are different, and we all have different personalities, and we all have to learn that everyone has good attributes, and take from each person that's on the board and each person in this community and work together to create the Brighton that we all imagine that we are, and in many ways we are, but we want a community that is there for each other no matter what. I apologize. I have nothing more. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that closes the call to the public. Dr. Owens, to follow up on one of the
Yeah, if I could just respond to a couple things here, just very briefly. One, I appreciate bringing up the link that was posted on the door of an LESA employee that was in the district. I just wanted to share that there was a link that was on a poster on a door, and the district strongly condemns that website. We do not endorse that, nor does the LESA. That matter has been addressed. Obviously, it's not something we could talk about here, but I wanted to let you know that we strongly condemn that site, and we do not endorse that in any way, form, or fashion. The other thing, if I could, just really quickly, committee of the whole, just to be clear, when the whole board is together, it's always going to be posted. It's always going to be available. The whole board will be there to be part of talking about the bond and other things like that. But I just wanted to be clear that all of it's posted. There's public comments, all those type of things. So there's nothing that would limit the participation of the public at those meetings. And also the STEAM Center is on track. Should be done, I believe, by the end of this month. So just wanted to share those. So thank you for the opportunity to follow up on a couple.
And just as a follow-up, Dr. Alla, thank you for that point of clarification. The movement to the committee of the whole, in part, is to promote the transparency because it is a publicly posted notice meeting where there's an opportunity for anyone to address the board during the call to the public. We meet as an entire board. There's a quorum. And so, obviously, it's an open meeting that anyone can attend. The ad hoc subcommittee meetings were never a quorum. There were only 3 members in each of those committees, and there were concerns raised or there were objections as to why those meetings were not held as public meetings. And the simple reason is that there were not quorum. So we're moving more towards having the quorum, the entire board. Obviously, everyone can attend. That was what we talked about at the last meeting and is the primary impetus for moving forward in that direction. So, thank you. All right, so that moves us to the for action. Item A, regular meeting minutes of February 14, 2022. Do we have a motion? Moved by Mr. Stahl, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. That passes 7-0. The next item is the special meeting minutes of February 28, 2022. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Reed. Supported by Ms. Mitchell. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? And 1 abstention, right? So that passes 6-0 with 1 abstention. That moves us to item C, the Human Resources Report. Mr. Scaling.
Yes. Good evening. The Human Resource Report is presented for your review with 1 addition. We learned this late this afternoon that Mr. Kress has decided not to accept the position at the Bridge High School. So with that adjustment, please note, we are excited to bring Ms. Lurch and Ms. Joseph to Brighton area schools. We ask that you accept the Human Resource Report as presented with the adjustment with Mr. Kress as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Scaling. Do we have a motion? Moved by Mr. Stahl, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? All right, and so
I'm sorry, could I have moved and supported?
Moved by Mr. Stahl, supported by Dr. Krebs.
Thank you.
And so the motion for the approval of the Human Resources Report is as modified by Mr. Scaling with respect to Mr. Kress's decision to withdraw from.
Yes, removal of him from the report, yes.
All right. Okay. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 6-0. Okay, that takes us to the next item, the Neola policy 0164.2. This is the policy that was discussed at the workshop, which at that time was proposed to amend the policy 0164.2 with respect to the number of board members that could call a special meeting from 2 to 4. As a result of the discussion that occurred at that evening, particularly with respect to how that would be impacted by the Open Meetings Act requirement in terms of scheduling the meeting, that policy has been modified, or the proposed amendment to the policy has been modified from 4 to 3. So that is what is up for consideration. So do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Mitchell, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
I have a little discussion.
Oh, sure.
Okay. So we originally talked about 4, but that's a quorum, and we thought that was a quorum. And you modified it to 3 after the meeting because that met the probably legal standing, I assume. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
Did you modify it to 3 because of legal standing, or why did you modify it to 3?
The 4 would have been,
Okay.
but it could have been adopted as 4 as well. I know there was some concerns that were raised of the logistics of scheduling it, without having any 4 board members talking and going through Dr. Outlaw. And so that's what then led to the modification to 3.
But the school district for decades potentially has had the other one where it requires 2. So all of a sudden, we've decided to make it where it requires 3 to get something on the agenda, or to call a special meeting, actually, excuse me, to call a special meeting. So your purpose behind that?
The
Well-
purpose behind moving from 2 to 3?
Yes.
The purpose behind it is to ensure that if a special meeting is called, which obviously is something that would occur within the 2-week window of when we have a regular meeting. Because again, this is something that can't wait until a regular meeting. And the problem that we encountered when there were multiple requests for special meetings by 2 board members was that it's very difficult to fit everyone's schedule in for a quorum, so that we can even have the meeting. And then as has been evidenced by the recent history, when there was ultimately nothing passed in any of the special meetings where there were 2 board members or even in that case, 3 board members. But the point being that if we're going to go through the difficult task of actually coordinating calendars during that interim 2-week period, it needs to have the support of at least more than 2 board members. I mean, that's really the policy behind it.
But in effect, really, we had never used that program for years until COVID came up. And these operations regarding should we be masked or shouldn't we have masks, and these, we'll call it emergencies. So we're changing a policy that wasn't utilized until there was something that had never happened in history. And we're going to modify the policy. And it went unused for years, but it was available. And my position is that I supported anybody that would bring a special meeting if they felt they needed to do that as a representative of the voting body. It's not whether we think they should bring the meeting or not technically. It's if they believe there's a reason to, then you support it. So in this case, we're basically heading towards a majority because you might only get 6 that show up because it's a special meeting, but yet it could be critical to the needs of the school. And in our case, different times, one was, for me was rather the quarantine of the schools and should we have these schools closed, which are very important topics, in my opinion. I didn't necessarily have the support to reopen the schools. It failed 5-2. So, but why wouldn't we just keep it all the same is my question. I understand the time and the effort and the laborious task to put that together, but you may find that 2 people bring something to the board and the board would change their entire opinion on it once they receive the information from that. Just my position. So thank you.
My response to that is that the requests that did occur were for more than just COVID-related issues that occurred in the last. It wasn't, and that's my concern is that it is particularly if we're dealing with issues. Again, we're talking about special meetings. It's a question of can it wait an extra week?
Got it.
And so,
Is there urgency or not?
Right, it's the urgency is the issue. And as a practical matter, we've had special meetings that were called. I know during my tenure, going back to Dr. Gray or even Dr. Outlaw, where the administration says there's an issue that whether it's the timing of having a contract being ratified or something where we have, and the administration comes and said we need to do this. And my predecessor, Amy Birchfield, if I recall, had special meetings, and that's fine. And then this won't impact that process at all.
That's a very good point. So our employees are allowed to do it, but we're not.
No, that's not that. The employees can, the Dr. Outlaw can say, we would like to have a special meeting. It's still.
But I'd do it in a minute.
Back to the president or the number of requisite board members. That's still what
Okay.
it goes back to.
Okay, yeah, I got it, but I'm just saying, so it allows the administrative team to pull a meeting together instantly if they believe it's necessary, but the elected official in the community that believes it should be pulled together instantly can't.
No, if there's 3 of them, they can.
The individual can't though, but yet our employees can. So we got to decide who runs the place.
Well, that's just factually inaccurate, Mr. Conley, because the administration cannot call the special meeting. It still has to be called by either the president or currently 2 board members, or if this passes by 3 board members.
But I would support it if he called it, but I would support it if he called it at any time. So that's what I'm getting at. So we'll move forward. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Just, if I may, my personal opinion on it was, if you've got 3 people that want it, it's that much easier to get the thing to happen because you just need one more person. You don't have to, 2 people don't have to make possible quorum calls. It just makes it a little easier. Now 3 people can each call one and find out who can make it and who can't. That was my opinion on it. I thought it made it a lot easier to do it.
Thank you.
I will offer, my thought was along the same lines as Mr. Stahl's, that if we've got 3 people that support having a meeting in between our regularly scheduled meetings, it's more likely that you're going to come up with the 4th to make the meeting possible. But I'll be honest, I don't have a strong feeling either way.
All right. Thank you. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
That passes 5-2. All right, that moves us to item E, the policy company options. Mr. Scaling or Dr. Allah, who would like to address that issue?
Sure. Yep. So we, per request, we provided some options to consider the company that we work with to host our policies. That summary was provided you, I believe, by Dr. Al. I think it's in the packet. And that motion there represents the information provided in that summary.
Okay, thank you. So do we have a motion, and specifically, there's the three options that are actually based upon our last meeting, we will really only have two options, either to select Troon or Miller Johnson as the new consultant for our policy. So do we have a motion identifying one of those two entities?
I'd make a motion to support Miller Johnson.
So we have a motion by Mr. Conley to engage Miller Johnson. Any support? Support by Ms. Reed. Any discussion? Dr. Outlaw.
If I could just ask a question, is the thought that we would move our legal counsel from Troon to Miller Johnson as our primary counsel? That's just a question for us.
Potentially. What I'd like to do, my thought was that we'd have a little separation of powers there initially. And if we did move our legal counsel to them, that would be acceptable to me. But this is specifically for this policy issue. And I would support the Miller Johnson firm.
Trombley.
So if we vote on this and it doesn't pass, then there'd be a motion made to vote on Miller Canfield.
On Troon?
Or I'm sorry, on Troon. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be the next alternative.
Okay. Okay. But at this point in time, Troon would stay on as our legal counsel.
I mean, that's, we approved Troon as our legal counsel at our organizational meeting in
Right,
January.
for the year.
So, I mean, we revisit that every January.
And that's a one-year deal. Okay.
Any further discussion?
I have some questions for Mr. Scaling and for Dr. Outlaw. One of the biggest differences as far as what we get from the two providers, Troon and Miller Johnson, is the hosting of the materials on the website. Right now, that's provided to us by Neola. What would be our plan if we went with Troon? How would we handle that?
The MSBO has a board book that does a lot of things that would include just a policy option. That is, if we just use them to host our policies, that would be an additional $1,000, and it would function very similar in my research as to the board docs program that we use with Neola right now.
And how would we administer that?
So we would log into the Troon site, if it's Troon, for example, and they send us a notification that there's updates to review. They have those that we log in and download in redline versions for us to review, and then the process would be the same that the district has done. And then when we're ready, we give those to the board book site to upload on our behalf.
So it wouldn't be any more labor intensive on you or on Ms. Ackermite when it comes to managing that site than it is today?
No, not based on my research. No, not for Troon. And I've used the Miller Johnson. It looks to be very similar as well.
So even though it's included, we'd have the same upkeep for the Miller Johnson site?
Same process, yes. Yep. If I understand the question correctly, yes.
Yeah, that is what the question was about. So you have experience with Miller Johnson. What's your thought about their process for onboarding and adopting their policy book?
It's just a time intensive because you look whichever one you adopt, you look at their policies, you look at ours, you make determinations on, does it support what the intention of the policies are? What do we absolutely have to have in there? And then you have to go through each policy to make those decisions. So it just takes the time to do that with the representative from either of the groups that would walk us through that process.
I didn't see, is there a recommendation from the administration on which provider we would go forward with?
At the work session, the administration shared that we recommended Troon, and that was because of our legal counsel. And we have several of our key attorneys all are with Troon, from our bond counsel to policy counsel, and also obviously our labor counsel. Those are all Troon. That was why we leaned towards them. Both are very good options.
Thank you.
I guess it's worth noting, as a variant, but it's back. About 3,000-4,000 more.
Well, then they also have an additional cost for the annual cost. It's $1,500 to update policies and $2,500 to update regulations. So it's not just the initial cost, it's also the annual cost as well. It's a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Scaling, so explain your experience that you've had with the Miller-Johnson Group.
So I was on the policy committee at the previous district I worked with, and the policies were a bit dated, not really maintained. And the decision was made to go through Neola, or in this case, Miller-Johnson, because at the time that was the primary legal firm that represented the district. The policy committee chose that, and then we spent a year going through by subcommittee each of the policies, doing the work and making those recommendations forward. Didn't have to be a year. That was just the things that were happening at the time. It just got pushed a little bit, so the work took about that a little bit longer than I think people were expecting. But there was no rush to get it done.
You found to be professional and on target for school environment. Yeah. So my point is that there's nothing wrong with Truon, but I think a little separation of powers is in order. And this company is well-rounded, and I was under that understanding, but I wanted to hear it. And they've been in the business, and I think that you get what you pay for. We do have other things we're doing with the other law firm, which may make it cheaper for what their fees would be to us. But that's my position. Hopefully that gains some support. So thank you.
So I'll amend the last motion to move it to replace Miller-Johnson with Troon instead. You do that?
Well, it was Mr. Conley's motion.
Right. Was there support?
Yes.
Yes, it was supported. I don't remember now who supported. Oh,
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to amend that motion. Well, it hasn't passed yet.
okay. So there's a motion to amend
Yep.
to substitute Truon instead of Miller-Johnson.
Yes.
All right. Is there a second? Supported by Ms. Mitchell. Any discussion regarding the motion to amend to substitute Truon instead of Miller-Johnson?
Procedurally, what does that mean we'd be doing? We'd be voting on whether we want Troon or not first, and then if it fails, we would be voting on Miller-Johnson again?
I think that's, as a practical matter. If the motion to amend passed by majority, then in essence, the approval would be for Truon as the provider.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Well, I'll mention that Mr. Trombley's motion leans towards what the district was asking for, so I appreciate that.
So I think it was at the workshop, Dr. Allow shared with us that as a couple of examples, Troon provided the policy for the Forest Hills District, and Miller-Johnson was at South Line, which you referred to, your involvement, Mr. Scaling. I went on both of them. I will say that I think both of them, I don't think we can go wrong either one. I think they both represent far superior, just in the user friendliness of the public going on the site to track the policies. So I'm comfortable, frankly, either one. I think will represent an upgrade. One of the I do believe, and I appreciate what you indicated, Mr. Conley, as far as having a separation between who may be our regular legal counsel and who may be our policy advisors. However, there is some benefit of having the continuity if we end up, if for some reason we end up in a lawsuit and the same law firm is has done the policies and they're also defending the district, there can be some benefit of having that continuity of representation. Whereas if you have one law firm that's representing the district and the policy consultant is a different law firm, I think there's and I'm not saying that would be a major factor, but it certainly is a factor from my perspective. Troon has provided great legal services for us, and we've successfully handled many arbitrations over the past year plus on behalf of the district. And I do, like, I think as Mr. Stahl indicated, there's some weight that's carried by the district's or the administration's recommendation that we go with Troon as well. So for all those reasons, I will lean towards Troon. But I, like I said, I wouldn't have a problem if we ended up with Miller Johnson, but I think we.
One question.
Yeah, Mr. Stahl.
What's the term of the contract that we're agreeing to? There's nothing on, does it say the term of the contract? Is this a 1 year, a 5 year, a 2 year? Can we fire them next year if we don't like them?
It would be, technically, it would be for 1 year, and we would renew the cost.
Similar to the attorney?
Correct.
Okay.
But certainly, if we were to change, you have to go through the same adoption process for each group, so.
If something didn't work out, it's just a few bucks.
Correct. No, I understand. So it wouldn't be as simple as just flipping over. We'd have to do the whole exhaustive readoption process
Okay.
as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, both, the proposals from both firms were structured that way, that essentially you pay for the upfront, and then if you're not happy and you don't renew for the annual cost and you want to go somewhere else, and you're going to pay for the upfront cost with the new firm.
Okay.
So.
All right, thank you.
So, I just have a question about the timing then. Would this be, when would this change happen? What kind of timeline are we looking at? I imagine it would be the same for either one too.
Yes. I mean, my recommendation would be to no sooner than the start of next school year. That gives us ample time to do it, but if we needed to take longer, we certainly could.
Okay, so we have, if there's no further discussion, we have on the table the motion to amend to approve Troon and not Miller Johnson. All those in favor of the motion, of the amended motion, signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
So that passes 6-1, which I believe then negates any need for the follow-up or the original motion. All right, that moves us to item F, laptop purchase. Who wants to handle that? Dr. Outlaw.
Today, our technology director, Mr. Castile, came to me and asked to put this on the agenda. We have technology that's going to be purchased before the beginning of next school year, and laptops are part of them. We know that we're seeing some supply chain issues in all kinds of areas around the nation. Laptops is one of the areas that concerned about them getting to school on time for the school year. They were thinking it would be about at least 6 months before we would be able to get laptops, but they were able to find a company that had 110 of what we need to purchase, but we have to do that immediately. So I'm bringing it to you for action. This is something that we were already going to purchase, but we probably would not have received it until after the beginning of the school year. This gives us a chance to order it now, and they'll be in place for the beginning. And as far as the cost, there's no additional cost. We're just front loading something that was going to come anyway.
All right, we have a motion. Moved by Mr. Stahl.
Support.
Supported by Ms. Reed. Any discussion?
No, this is, go ahead. Is it general fund expenditure or is this a bond technology? Okay, what's our balance left in the technology bond right now?
Plenty.
Well, what's plenty though?
I don't have an answer for you right now. This was.
You're in
already
charge of
planned.
finance. You're supposed to, $10 million, $5 million?
This is coming to me right now as well, so.
Approximately, give or take $1 million.
There's probably 2 million at least left
In the technology side?
on the technology side, because we scheduled all these out, and this was part of that.
Okay.
So this was already planned for. It isn't anything new, but I would say we probably got 2 million left in there. At
Thank you.
least. Yeah.
Are these the same machines that would have been purchased in the summer, or are they?
Yes.
different,
Yes.
machines?
This is what we would have ordered.
So didn't we just have this discussion in the last meeting about bond items going for future and then for action? Didn't we just discuss that?
Yeah.
And wasn't the consensus the fact that, yeah, we were going to go with future first and then action? Now the next meeting, well, I get that, but sooner or later, someone's going to have to start following the procedures and putting their foot down and saying, well, if this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it. And I mean, I don't remember anything talked about with exceptions that I'm aware of. I don't remember any type of language and discussion in regards to that. So when are we going to start following the procedure? I mean, if Clark needs to order something tomorrow or buy something tomorrow, are we going to say, sure, go ahead, don't go to future, we're going to go buy it tomorrow so they can finish the STEM center?
Bring it to the first available meeting, which happened to be tonight on this case. And
I get it, Ken, but what happened to the future action that we just sat here and discussed 2 weeks ago? And don't get me wrong, I'm not against buying the laptops. I'm talking from the procedure standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, that generally speaking, we are going to go forward with the process. It's no different than the for future action process that we've used before. I mean, the idea was that before something became for action, it was going to be addressed at a prior meeting for future action.
That's
But,
right.
I mean, but we've had instances in the past where things skipped for future action and went right to action when there was a need. I mean, absolutely, I completely agree with you that if at all possible, we should have the opportunity to discuss an issue first and then have it be scheduled for the next meeting for action. I guess, I mean, in something like this, it begs the question of what other information would we be discussing? I mean, these were identified as, in this instance anyway, these were identified as what would be purchased down the road. So
Right.
we're just advancing the timing. It's not like this is a new item that had not been contemplated to be purchased. That would be the only exception, I think, for this particular issue.
Well, then I guess we'll find exceptions when there's other issues like this. But my point being is, if we sat and agreed on the process, I think we should try to stick to that process. Now, let me ask you this. Everybody knows it's tough to get materials. It's tough to get technology. It's tough to get laptops. It's tough to get a lot of things nowadays. All of a sudden now, here it is for action. What happened a month ago? Why wasn't somebody looking into this a month ago? What, they just decided today they needed laptops? I mean, I'm trying to find the answer to it.
So I'll take responsibility for it. I asked to put this on here. I mean, this came to me at 10 o'clock today, and it's gone. It's gone if we don't do it right now. So that's why I moved it forward. I understand exactly what the concern is. I cringed at bringing it for action for this exact conversation, but we lose out on this, and our laptops that we're going to get here, after school starts. So
Who
bring
are
it
the
forward.
88 laptops for, or the quantity of the laptops?
The 110 laptops are for staff. They're a replacement of staff laptops
When
for
was
their
the last
teacher
time the
workstations.
computers were replaced?
I don't know that
With the
exact,
last bond?
probably.
What's going to happen with the old ones?
I don't know.
Every other time, I mean, I don't know if it's the case this time, but every other time they were sold to someone else or they got money back from them. So I imagine that's what's gonna happen. We'll probably have plenty of time to find out.
Oh, we'll have plenty of time, but again, my point is rushing this whole thing now all of a sudden because now we need 110 laptops. I get we probably need the laptops, but why all of a sudden now? What happened a month ago? Why didn't we need them a month ago, but we need them now?
So we did need them a month ago. They
Right.
became available right at this moment. This was not, as I understand it, as it was shared with me, is that this was a surprise that they ended up having these available. And that's why this was brought forward.
So
This
they
was
were ordered a
discovery.
month ago, or they were going to be ordered a month ago and then? Is
No,
that
the laptops are in the plan to be ordered. And this opportunity to get them earlier just came available. And I don't know if it was yesterday or today, but that's why it came forward, is because this just became available. So that's the understanding that I have. So we could pass on it and get them in September. Doesn't really matter. We'll get them one way or the other. So.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. All right.
The motion to go
go into closed session to review attorney-client privilege communication. All right, so we have a motion to go into closed session to discuss attorney-client privilege communication by Mr. Stahl,
Second?
supported by Dr. Krebs. And this will require a roll call vote. Ms. Ackermite.
Ms. Reed?
Questions? Can we have questions or no questions in between? Yes.
All right, so discussion. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. Why are we changing the order of the agenda?
We're not. This was what was approved unanimously.
Didn't we add something to it, though? We added a G to it, didn't we?
Right, the G is after this closed session.
It's after we're coming back?
Correct.
I see. Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, roll call vote, Ms. Ackerman?
Ms. Reed?
Yes?
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Trombley?
Yep.
Mrs. Mitchell? Yes. Dr. Krebs?
Yes.
Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes, that passes 7-0. All right, so we are going to be recessing into a closed session. You don't have to leave. We are actually going to be moving into a different room because we still have other items on our agenda that we will be continuing. So feel free to stay here if you like, and we will reconvene after we finish with our closed session.
Hi, John. Hi, Bill. I missed you guys from the harbor board meeting and had to come up here to say hi to you.
Yeah, we have to do this.
How are you doing?
Hey, bro.
We'll be in touch.
Isn't that nice? You guys already do.
It's all right.
Right, right, and that just shows.
Yeah, you're at the very extent. Now I've been banned.
Oh, I can't wait, we're coming to. Not this one right here, but the one right here. And then you should see it. They wore matching shirts.
Oh, yeah.
So
saved her card for the last too.
So then the teachers are going to look at them all standing. With their little teacher shirts. And so here's the thing, they were standing up, so we wanted to stand up. Throwing a tantrum because they're saying, we're like, well, there are kids, right? And they're like, no, there are kids. And it's like, I'm sorry, what the heck? Yeah.
They said, no, yeah.
But then
Not your students, not your children.
Right. So they all get to stand in like honor and solidarity and like they're all talking.
I seriously thought they were like.
It was crazy.
Do something
Whatever they
weird.
Crazy.
question. It was very eerie to release. I have But is that?
Yes. I'd say so. I would 50, 60 teachers. No, like the teachers, not one teacher. Yeah, what can I say? See her. I think that's It was just so funny. And she said to me, same age, same year. We graduated same year. I might not remember the names, but right, I do. Even though I was, our daughter is first hour class together, and their teacher. I'm just saying. I'm just curious. They're all super hot. Yeah. I'd like to talk to that. Oh my God. Sure. This is for stop. You go. What is that? She, I don't know. There's another one. I'm learning that there are some crazy stuff there. Look the other way. Right. That's why I'm really needing. My dad worries on like, maybe done. How done are you? Yeah, ladies, right. She was speaking. Well, and it made us. All of us. Here's someone speaking, he just called her out, and while she.
Starting to learn all of the players right now, and I'm just fascinated.
Look what John Keith said about me. You remember when we read?
And those are the moments that this is your couch moments in therapy right there, right? That's like when I see clients, I'm like, I'm gonna like such and such an age, and I'm like, oh, what happened? That's all part of it.
And one year while talking. Oh, and the same thing, my brothers and sisters. But you do Roberts and Indian. You don't remember the wall like that? You don't know? You remember the meeting parties? Right. I'm serious.
She starts saying that everything needs to be done.
This is water.
Oh my God.
And remember when nobody came in trying to take his pictures over? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I know. Well, that's how I felt now. Like my daughter is wasn't seventh grade when she was tenth grade. And I'm like, damn it, I should have started like a year ago.
Oh, yeah, no, I saw my kids.
So that's like my dad. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, if we don't do something, what's gonna happen? You know? The kids are the future.
Yeah, it's very absolutely. We're fake ones, you're brave, but they are. Yes.
They're just like. They're
Well, you should have to. See, I would have no idea. All right, I'll have to look into that. Okay. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so. I like the machine. Do you have one? Maybe not. I'm gonna ask Michelle. I want her to bring it. She wants to bring the crowd. Yeah. Okay, so I gotta remember my post. You know what? We're like, okay, so. Well, because if I am against this, it's not like coffee right now, and I'm not happy. And so if you don't see the comments, then I assume it's the same. How do you actually? If you like this would be one police and saying, hey, I was just speeding. So now so then now we're going after the, yeah, so now we're going after the but you just you're saying. Because they investigate all of it. So they're saying that that's the way they are. They can't. You can't, it's not yellow, yep. So since then, usually two. Okay, so they're what? So once we pick the password, you know your password from the member. Do they make it with yes, absolutely, 40 to 60. I said 60, 50, whatever. All the ones that were off, whether you support it or not. Okay, the school and themselves. They're not going. I turned my phone out. A couple of times. So again, I will reiterate. The ones that's what I'm here too. Those are buildings. And for you, you're on the court right now.
They have really short hair. Those are big signs. I only know one part.
Yes, absolutely. So. Oh, I love it. You guys need him. It was always yes. I used to think it is. Everything is so regulated. Really, but just trying to get
last year with bikers. What's your name?
I think you just.
Just let you know. We're finally, I was looking right at it.
Jason.
Well, well, my mom's around and my dad's in East. I'm very good. Well, it's the way that we got our name. But my husband is a full number. He was 6'7". But I kept my maiden name. And he said, when John King ran my name for 4.5 months. And like I said, we're on each other. 4.5 months ran me. I'm a racist. I'm they don't want to know me now. You're a racist. I said, sorry. But I'm tired of this. I'm tired. Because I should have stopped.
I read all.
They did. So I said, you're I'm offended. I said, you're offended. I didn't even know. I said, but you might. I was like, me, it was his. She's got right now. You know, and just but I speak and they did that, they should be kicking out people out. But I just did I'm
That was super exciting. I mean, obviously, it was a function, but it was just before like
So she didn't like our
Oh, did she? Oh, fun.
Your son was awesome.
Oh,
He
thanks.
took a lot of shots.
I know, right? I know.
That's about right.
Yeah, we're good. Yep. Yeah, just stay on.
All right, we are back in open session, resuming our meeting. And the next item on our agenda under for action is item G, FOIA fee appeal.
After reviewing the fee appeal from a community member and legal options from the district's attorney, I move that the Board of Education uphold the fee, delegate to the FOIA coordinator the authority to work with legal counsel to promptly draft a letter providing the requester with more information about the basis for the fee charge and notify the requester of the board's decision to uphold the fee.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Stahl,
Support.
supported by Mr. Conley. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 7-0. That concludes our for action items and moves for future action. The first item is A, Neola policy updates. Mr. Staley?
Yes, the most recent Neola policy updates are presented for your review. These three updates include the latest changes to EDGAR regulations that would be reflective of the new requirements. The general summary is provided for your review as well.
Any questions? Ms. Reed?
I just wanted to make sure that Mr. Ingleter had had an opportunity to review these and see what his thoughts were on the changes.
Yes, he has.
I've had that chance, and they are not substantive changes, and I'm fine with them as is.
Okay, so the new language on, let's see, 6110, it's page 19 of the board book, the maintenance of effort and the maintenance of equity requirements. That looks like it's wholly new. Is that something we'll have difficulty implementing?
No, the report is due tomorrow, actually, for the maintenance of equity. It's already turned in. It really is just a comparison. It's almost like, I'm trying to remember, under Title I, they have the same thing, where you're comparing buildings, and essentially with maintenance of equity, you're just, with the buildings that have been tagged as the most in need, if you are making reductions, which we don't have in the near future, then you would make the least amount at those buildings. It's just a matter of making sure that you're taking care of the most at-risk individuals as should be done.
Thank you.
Any other questions? One of the questions I had, it's relating to, it's on page 22, relating to cost principles, and it's item D, all federally funded contracts in excess of $2,000 related to construction, alterations, repairs, painting, decorating, et cetera, must comply with BAS prevailing wage requirements.
That's correct.
Is that a change in the law?
Davis-Bacon has been in effect for 50 years. It's nothing new. I think it just was added to the cost principles part under CFR Part 200. It was always under the former Single Audit Act. So anytime you have federally funded construction projects, you're subject to Davis-Bacon. Now, how you would pull that off in this day and age where the prevailing wage laws have been pulled out of Michigan and the Department of Labor no longer monitors those is another thing, which is a reason I always try to avoid any kind of construction out of federal dollars. But
You know, that if the threshold had been lowered, like, it was higher, and now it's only 2,000, or what was the change that facilitated that?
I don't even remember a threshold being in place before, so maybe 2,000 is in good shape, but
Yeah, it was just
required.
right. Yeah, it was required.
So if they moved it up, they didn't do much, so.
Okay, any other questions? All right, that moves us to item B, the kinetic flooring.
Yeah, I'll take it. There was just a lot of discussion on it last time. The kinetic flooring is currently out for bid because we have everything in place for it to come. As So that will be coming back at a future meeting. I did want to provide more information because there was a lot of discussion on it last time. So I provided both the product pamphlet as well as the color scheme and the size of it. As you can, it's hard to read on the color scheme, but the kinetic floor space, the array itself is about 11 feet long by about 5 feet wide. It will be roughly right inside the entrance coming in off the auto lab there. It is set up to run what the power is generated to a display unit that's next to the array itself. So I really just wanted to provide some additional information for future action, just so you know. It's out for bid. We'll see what we get back in, if we actually get a bid in this time, and bring it back for the board to discuss and vote upon accordingly.
Let me ask you, since it's out for bid right now, but we've already got the foundation in, there's already conduit ran to the spot. What if we receive an alternate bid from a different manufacturer that requires something else?
Yeah, so what I put in the bid itself, I put the paved gen product as the spec approved by the district. Alternates will be, I can't remember the exact wording on how I wrote it, so I'll paraphrase, but essentially alternates will be considered, but ultimately the equivalency would be subject to the board's
approval,
sole responsibility. So
okay,
that way we're putting it out there. We've
Right.
decided on a spec, but we are leaving it open to anybody else that wishes to
Right.
bid it. They just have to meet the spec.
okay.
Yep. Well, that's good news. You got somebody bidding on it, hopefully, right?
Well, we'll see.
We hope. But put in there too is we need a hand around sample, of the controller and one of the pieces of floor that can be used in a lab situation. So we have a spare.
That is included. Yeah, I didn't bring that up, but
Comes with that stuff, because that thing's cool.
yeah, there's
Let him answer. I want to hear
like
it.
a
So I
repair
hear.
kit and some additional tiles so that it can be used for.
That's what we need
display
for a classroom
purposes, yeah.
type of situation.
I can't remember how I had it written. We had it in the spec though.
Okay, thank you.
When is the bid, when do the bids due?
I've got it due before the next meeting.
The next regular April meeting, not, we
Yeah.
have a work session next Monday night.
Right, I have it, I can't remember now. I think it's a week from next, it's right after spring break, I think.
I have one question. Are we going to, in this future board meetings here, are we going to still have a board reports time, like talk about robotics and talk about different things, or is this going to be our standard?
I mean, this is the agenda for tonight.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, there's going to be opportunity next week when we have our workshop next Monday night.
Okay, all right, because I have 3 things I'd like to review. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, that closes the for future action portion of our agenda. Moves us into the next
Question.
which is closed session.
Are we doing superintendent evaluation? So under closed session to consider periodic personal evaluation and as much as the superintendent has requested a closed session.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Stahl, support by Dr. Kress. Roll call, any discussion? Roll call vote, Ms. Ackerman.
Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Dr. Krebs?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell? Yes. Mr. Trombley?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes, that passes 7-0. So we are going to be going into closed session. We also have another closed session on our agenda this evening, and that is all we have on the agenda. So there'll be no further business than what we have on our agenda to conduct this evening after we conclude our closed sessions. So.
But Mr. Myers, since we only moved to go into closed session for the superintendent evaluation, we're going to have to come back up here to move for the
Right,
next
we
one,
are.
right?
Just for the procedural purpose of going back into closed session, but in terms of any substantive board action, there's nothing further to be taken.
Can we just stay here then?
All right, so we'll be going to closed session at this point.
Stay here. Yeah, I'm gonna just turn it off.
Yep, thank you.